The best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Hey, we're coming here with a super great podcast. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to go back on all the wonderful podcasts that we profiled last year. There's our 700 podcasts. You can go back and see all the great, wonderful books and authors and people that we had on the show. You can see a lot of the books we review and read on Goodreads.com. You can see the video version of this interview at youtube.com/Chris Voss. Right now, there is an unlimited time that you can subscribe there for free. You just hit that little button. It's going to give you a very special, warm feeling in your heart, like you belong to something for a change and that you're loved. Also, go see all our groups on Facebook.com, Facebook.com/The Chris Voss Show, and of course on LinkedIn as well. And this episode is brought to you by IFI Audio and their new Neo IDSD. The Neo is the new wave of digital sound listening, desktop, music, game, and bleeding edge Bluetooth and MQA audio file decoding. We're using it in the studio right now. I've loved my experience with it so far. It just makes everything sound so much more richer and better and takes things to the next level. IFI Audio is an award-winning audio tech company with one aim in mind: to improve your music enjoyment of quality sound, eradicate noise, distortion, and hiss in your listening experience. Check out their new lineup of data and audio enhancement devices, ifi-o.com. Today, we have an amazing author. This gentleman is in radio, and he's written an incredible book that we have before us, and he's the author of many. The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, Reclaiming Our Democracy from the Ruling Class. He's a New York Times bestseller. Thom Hartmann. I'll go ahead and hold up the book, the advanced press copy that we have here. Thom Hartmann is a progressive, national, and internationally syndicated talk show host. Talkers Magazine named him America's most important progressive host, and is to show one of the top 10 radio shows in the country every year for over a decade. A four-time recipient of the Project Censored Award, and is also a New York Times bestseller, author of 26 books. Count them, people, 26 books translated into multiple language. Welcome to the show, Thom. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Chris. It's great to be back with you.
It's awesome to have you on the show. I've been watching your YouTube channel with all your radio shows, and I love it.
Thank you.
There you go. Can you give the audience your plugs so they can find you on the interwebs and know where to order up a great book here?
ThomHartmann.com, however you spell it, will get you there. And the book is available wherever you can buy a book. You know, it's nationally distributed through whatever,
There you go. Pick it up at your local bookseller, support them, or pick it up at the big Amazon. It will be available on February 2nd, so you can pre-order that book now and be one of the first people to read it and get it out of the gate. So, Thom, what motivated you want to write this book?
This book is the other half of the book that preceded it, which was The Hidden History of Monopoly. Basically, how big business has screwed the American dream. And monopoly is when you concentrate economic power, marketplace power, to such an extent that basically the competition ceases to exist. And that's where we're at in the United States. We're a highly monopolized economy. Oligarchy is when you consolidate political power to the point that it's very difficult to compete with, or that basically you have, one ruling class, as it were. Oligarchy is sometimes referred to as rule by the rich, and monopoly as, domination of the marketplace by a handful of huge actors. So this is applying to politics the same analysis that I apply to the economy in the last book. And, it's particularly timely because our modern tilt toward oligarchy, which started in a big way in the mid 70s and really kind of exploded onto the American scene in 1981 with the Reagan administration, has been just a straight line from Reagan to Trump, and doesn't show any signs of stopping in the near future. The right-wing billionaires are still very active and still very much in control of a lot of the political, particularly in the states now. Even though they've lost federal power, they still have, it's just by a whisker, and so this hasn't gone away.
So is that a good overview of the book, or what would you give us an overview of the book?
Well, in general, in the book, first of all, I cover the history of oligarchy in the United States. We fought a war against oligarchy, against the British East India Company. The Boston Tea Party was the kickoff point for that war, where the East India Company basically controlled almost all the commerce, certainly all the international commerce in the colonies. And there were a whole bunch of things that it was just illegal for people to do. It was illegal to manufacture fine clothing, for example, in the United States. It had to be made in England. Complex machinery had to be made in England. Certain types of furniture had to be made in England. And all the tea in the United States had to be brought in from England. And this, of course, was the way that the British government was protecting their economy. And this, by the way, was not just something that was inflicted on the United States in 1773 when the Boston Tea Party happened. This is why Mahatma Gandhi's logo was a spinning wheel. He'd sit and spin at his wheel when he'd do interviews and things, because at that time, India was a British colony, and it was still illegal to make clothing in India. It had to be made in the United Kingdom. You could pick cotton in India, but you had to ship it to England to be turned into clothing, and then ship that back down to India. So this is this had been a policy, an oligarchic policy, and a monopolistic policy that had kept England rich for hundreds of years. So I start at that point, where when the British Parliament gave a massive tax cut to the East India Company so that they could come into the American tea market and blow out of the water their competition, which was mostly smuggled tea. And that so pissed off the colonists that they said, enough of this, and they did the Tea Party. We go from that, America was birthed in a fight against oligarchy, to in the 1830s, well, really in the cotton gin. Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin in like 1797, as I recall, but it really didn't hit the marketplace until around 1810, and it really didn't get widespread in the South until around 1820. And the big bottleneck in cotton production was cleaning the cotton. Cotton, little bowls, they're called, kind of a wad of cotton that's, replaces the flour. It has all these seeds inside it that are just almost impossible to get the seeds away from the cotton. And so cleaning cotton was just a huge, huge problem. The cotton gin was a big barrel with kind of a screen and little hooks that went in, and the hooks would pull the cotton through, and the seeds would have to stay inside the screen. And one cotton gin could do the work of 50 enslaved people. Wow. So what happened was the large wealthy plantations bought cotton gins. They were able to use those to produce literally 50 times more cotton than their smaller competitors. They wiped out their small competitors, put them out of business, bought their land, turned them into sharecroppers, and became basically an oligarchy. The entire South was controlled by a few thousand families and these massive plantations. And the entire political class of the South, now by 1830s, with the rise of John C. Calhoun, was pure oligarchy. I mean, right out of a textbook oligarchy. And 20 years later, 30 years later, they said to the United States of America, we don't like this idea of democracy. We don't like this idea of representative government. We want to be the oligarchs who run the entire continent. And they declared war on us. So that was the second big experiment with oligarchy in the United States. Of course, they crashed and burned, and the South got occupied by the Union Army. The third was in the 1930s. Each one of these, weirdly enough, are about 80 years apart. The third was in the 1930s when Franklin Roosevelt became president. And, another oligarchy had emerged as a result of the Industrial Revolution starting around 1880, 1890.